My daughter's teacher gave her perfect grades despite failing every test, so I investigated and uncovered a horrifying blackmail scheme that went deeper than I ever imagined. I was at my 18-year-old daughter Sophia's parent-teacher conference when her physics teacher told me she was an excellent student with this weird smirk. Something about his tone rubbed me the wrong way, especially since Sophia was borderline failing every other class but getting all A's in his. When I confronted her at home about Mr. Patterson being the only teacher giving her good reports, she froze like a deer in headlights before muttering something about loving physics. Since I'd studied physics in college, I quizzed her on basic concepts on the spot. She knew nothing. That night, I stayed awake wondering how my daughter, who couldn't even define gravity, was acing physics. The next day while she was at school, I searched her room and found her diary. In her latest entry, she wrote about Mr. Patterson and how doing it made her sick to her stomach, but she had no choice. I immediately called the principal, telling him Patterson was forcing my daughter into an inappropriate relationship for better grades, but my complaints were dismissed. I was told that unless I had proof beyond a diary entry, they couldn't act. When Sophia came home, I sat her down and gently asked what her deal with Patterson was. I bluffed, saying I already knew what was happening, so there was no point lying. She broke down and explained everything. At the beginning of the year, Patterson had caught her with marijuana, which was grounds for expulsion. She told him she'd do anything to avoid being reported, and he took that literally. Once a week, Sophia went to his house after school where she had dinner with him and pretended to be his deceased wife, wearing her old clothes and acting like a mother to his 3-year-old son. Sophia said she didn't want to do it, and it made her sick, but she had to. She'd even gone to the principal with evidence, but he said he couldn't do anything because she was 18, and they were both adults free to make their own choices. As a police officer, I knew Patterson was going to pay for every messed up thing he'd ever done. I started gathering evidence by setting up a recording app on Sophia's phone. In our state, one-party consent was legal, meaning she could record conversations without telling the other person. I spent an evening sewing a hidden pocket into her purse where she could store the phone with the microphone exposed. I also asked my partner to run a background check on Patterson, which revealed he'd moved between 3 different school districts in 5 years, a major red flag. When I investigated his previous schools, a counselor revealed there had been similar complaints about Patterson's behavior with female students, but nothing was ever formally filed. Instead, issues were handled internally by transferring him to another district, essentially passing the problem along. Through social media research, I found 2 former students willing to talk. Their stories confirmed a disturbing pattern where Patterson targeted vulnerable girls with disciplinary issues. Sophia's first recording captured Patterson making inappropriate comments and explicitly mentioning the marijuana incident as leverage. "Remember what happens if you don't help me out," he said. "That little bag I found could still cause big problems for you." I had the audio enhanced by our technical division, and we needed more concrete evidence of coercion to build a solid case. Meanwhile, I discovered through school board meeting minutes that the principal had personally pushed for Patterson's hiring, despite objections about gaps in his employment history. Further investigation revealed the principal and Patterson had attended the same college, and that the principal had co-signed Patterson's mortgage 3 years ago. This suggested a personal relationship that explained why complaints were being dismissed. Surveillance cameras I installed captured footage of other teenage girls visiting Patterson's house. When I showed the images to Sophia, she recognized one girl named Kelsey from her grade. I carefully approached Kelsey, who revealed Patterson was blackmailing her too for altering test scores in the school's digital system. With more evidence building, I approached a trusted school board member who confirmed similar complaints had mysteriously disappeared from agendas before. Through our financial crimes unit, I discovered a connection between Patterson and the principal, laundered through a company called Advanced Educational Tutoring Services. The company had received substantial school district funds for specialized services over the past 3 years, but had minimal online presence. This led to uncovering a scheme where Patterson was recruiting vulnerable students to write papers that were sold to college athletes through the tutoring company. A sting operation with an undercover officer posing as a college representative successfully documented Patterson arranging paper-selling transactions. During the meeting, he mentioned the principal's cut, saying, "I have to give the boss 30%, but the rest is all mine." Combined with surveillance footage and financial records, we finally had enough evidence to pursue serious charges. The principal eventually agreed to testify against Patterson in exchange for leniency, revealing a broader conspiracy involving other administrators who had helped conceal complaints and identify vulnerable students. Patterson was arrested attempting to flee the state and was found with cash, passport, and disposable phones in his vehicle. A search of Patterson's home uncovered a hidden room containing women's clothes, similar to what Sophia described being forced to wear, along with photos of students and financial documents confirming his role in the tutoring scheme. Patterson and the principal were both convicted on multiple charges. Patterson received 15 years in prison, while the principal got 7 years due to his cooperation. The case sparked comprehensive reforms throughout the district, including new hiring procedures, complaint tracking systems, and regular audits. Sophia and other victims filed civil lawsuits that resulted in a settlement establishing a compensation fund and independent oversight committee. The experience was traumatic, but Sophia found strength in speaking up and is now studying law with a focus on educational policy, determined to strengthen protections for students at a systemic